When you're looking at pre-roll boxes, maybe for your shop or for bigger distribution, it can feel like a total maze.
Oh, absolutely.
There are just so many materials, uh, endless designs, and then you throw in all the rules and regs.
Hmm.
It's easy to get kind of bogged down.
For sure. And that's exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive today, to try and map out a clearer path through all that complexity.
Exactly. Our mission here is really to pull out the practical stuff, the insights that will help you make better decisions. Doesn't matter if you're new to this or, been buying packaging for years. We want to cut through that feeling of being overwhelmed.
Right. We're focusing on the key things that actually impact your product and, importantly, your brand.
Yeah. So we'll be digging into like the different packaging materials out there, the pros and cons, making sure you know what's required for compliance,
Super important.
and exploring how custom branding, done right, can be a real game changer. Plus, how to find those reliable wholesale suppliers. It's all about seeing how these pieces fit together.
And they definitely do fit together. You can't really decide on one without thinking about the others.
Precisely. And underlying all of this, we really want to stress how critical it is to have packaging that's, well, sturdy, first off, but also has those essential child-resistant features and really clear labeling.
Yeah, these aren't just boxes, they protect the product.
And they protect your bottom line, really, by building that trust with customers. That's huge for long-term success. Okay, so let's start with the basics, the actual materials. What should people be thinking about there?
Well, the material you pick for your pre-roll box, it's more than just the container. It's often the very first physical thing a customer touches from your brand.
That makes sense.
And it seriously shapes how they perceive the quality inside.
Totally. You pick up a flimsy box, it just screams cheap, doesn't it? The info we look at seems to point towards like durable paperboard and eco-friendly folding cartons as
Yeah.
pretty solid choices.
Exactly. They hit a really nice sweet spot. They tend to be cost effective, which, let's face it, is always a factor. But they're also really versatile for customizing, and they look good on a shelf. Good retail presence.
Now, what if you're going for like a really premium vibe?
Okay, yeah. Then you might look at thicker, maybe more rigid cardboard, or even adding special coatings like a soft touch finish or something.
Right. And then there are those other options like metal tins or maybe reusable packaging.
Those definitely serve specific markets. Metal, yeah, it feels high-end, durable. Reusable packs appeal to that sustainability-minded customer.
Makes sense.
But honestly, for most situations, the consensus seems to be that paper-based options give you the best balance. Quality, cost, and increasingly sustainability creds.
And practically speaking, if your region requires it, that material has to be child resistant. That's just table stakes.
Non-negotiable, absolutely. And that material choice directly feeds into your brand image. A sturdy paperboard box, one with a bit of heft, it just feels more polished.
Yeah, it signals care.
Right, compared to a thin box that might get crushed easily.
I thought this was interesting, the growing appeal of the eco-friendly stuff. The research mentioned things like biodegradable hemp paper. That feels like a big plus for certain consumers now.
It really is. And look, maybe those greener materials cost a little more upfront.
Yeah, probably.
But the potential payoff in customer loyalty, especially from people who really care about the environment, that can be significant down the line. It's about matching your packaging to your customers' values.
So what about recycled paperboard? That feels like a pretty smart middle path, maybe?
Often, yeah. You usually get a manageable cost. You still get a nice smooth surface for printing graphics, and it's durable enough, protects the pre-rolls on the shelf during shipping.
Good point. That rigidity stops things getting bashed about.
Exactly. Keeps it looking good.
Now, the sources also mentioned plastic and metal. Plastic's got that water resistance going for it.
True, that can be a plus.
But yeah, the environmental baggage is getting heavier all the time. And metal, it looks sharp, definitely upscale, but usually costs more.
Those are the main trade-offs, yeah. And if you do go for metal or plastic, especially somewhere like California with strict rules, you've got to be super careful about tamper-evident features. Make sure they're built in or added effectively.
Right. Compliance again.
Always.
So tying this section together, it really feels like the material choice has to lock in with your brand identity. What message are you sending?
Precisely.
The examples were good, like simple craft paper for a natural, earthy brand.
Right.
Or maybe that sleek matte black with metallic bits for something more edgy or luxe.
Exactly. The material is your foundation. It needs to protect, communicate your brand's vibe, and critically, meet all the legal requirements.
Okay, material sorted, foundation laid. Now, how do you make those boxes really jump out? Let's talk custom branding.
Ah, yes. This is where the magic happens, really. where you get to make your product stand out from the crowd.
You want it to practically pop off the shelf, right?
That's the goal.
Huh.
And strategic branding is how you do it. It makes your product memorable.
Absolutely. The research is clear. Custom branding turns that plain box into like a mini billboard for your company's personality. It's way more than just sticking a logo on, isn't it?
Oh, much more. It's about creating an entire visual, even tactile experience that clicks with your ideal customer.
Right.
Could be bold graphics that grab the eye, could be a subtle embossed pattern that feels sophisticated. Whatever it is, good branding is essential in a busy dispensary. It builds that loyalty.
It's that instant recognition factor, isn't it? The logo, the tagline, the whole look and feel it helps people remember you even after they finish the product.
Yeah.
One source called it your brand's handshake with new buyers. I like that analogy.
That's a great way to put it because it is that first critical impression. And it goes beyond that. Strong branding can turn someone who tries you once into a repeat customer, someone who actually looks for your brand.
Just think about iconic packaging for everyday stuff we buy.
Yes.
So much of why we remember those brands is the packaging.
Exactly. So when you're thinking about your pre-roll boxes, really consider your colors. The info we looked at suggested those typical cannabis culture colors can work well, warm greens, calm blues, earthy tones.
Sure.
But the absolute key, as the sources stressed, is consistency.
Right. Has to match the overall brand.
Totally. If your brand is all about tranquility and class, the packaging needs to whisper that. If you're more modern, maybe a bit edgy, then bolder colors, sharper lines might be the way to go.
And it's not just colors and logos, is it? What about texture and finishes?
Great point. Those tactile elements add another layer. A textured finish feels interesting. Things like foil stamping or spot UV highlights, that shiny raised effect that can scream luxury, premium.
Appeals to that high-end consumer.
Definitely. Or, sometimes less is more. A clean, minimal design can be super impactful for a brand that's more laid back or natural.
And the research touched on printing methods too, right?
Yeah.
Offset for big runs.
Yeah, offset's usually more cost-effective for large quantities. Digital printing offers more flexibility for smaller orders, maybe quicker turns sometimes.
Depends on your scale, I guess.
Right, and how often you might need to tweak the design. And don't forget storytelling.
Ah, yes.
The info we saw mentioned using a bit of space on the box to talk about your brand's mission, or maybe highlighting, ethically sourced flower or the specific lineage of the strain.
That creates more of a connection, doesn't it? Makes people feel like they're buying into something more than just the product.
Precisely. That emotional investment, that's powerful. It makes the customers choose your box over the 10 others next to it.
It's interesting how companies like Clover Glass, even though they're known for pipes and rigs, really get this. The source quoted them saying branding is like a promise.
That sums it up perfectly. It's about creating that consistent, trustworthy vibe every time someone interacts with your brand.
Okay, so the box looks amazing, perfectly branded. Now for the part that can be, well, a bit nerve-wracking, compliance. Making sure you're following all the rules.
Yeah, navigating the regs. It can feel like a moving target sometimes, but it's absolutely crucial. Getting it wrong means fines, maybe recalls, and serious damage to your reputation.
Right. The info we reviewed just hammered this home.
Yeah.
You have to know your state and local cannabis packaging rules inside out.
Child-resistant features, tamper-evident seals, all the required warning labels.
And it's not just knowing the rules exist. It's checking, double-checking, that your specific packaging meets those rules. Is it opaque? Is the labeling right? Does it look like candy?
All critical checks. Is the required info actually visible and readable?
And the advice we saw about talking to a compliance expert, or at least a really clued-up supplier, that seems like gold. Could save you a massive headache later.
Oh, absolutely. Because, as the sources point out, the rules change significantly state by state. California's requirements are different from Michigan's, which are different from Nevada's.
Yeah, no one-size-fits-all approach.
Definitely not. Some places demand huge warning labels or specific THC potency details right on the front. Child-proof locks might need to meet different standards, too.
So you either need to become an expert yourself, which takes time,
A lot of time.
or partner with a supplier who really knows their stuff and stays on top of it. Even where rules are maybe a bit looser, the research highlighted just basic, clear labeling THC content, how to use it, disclaimers builds trust, avoids confusion.
Totally. Good practice, regardless of the law. And those labels need to stick, right? Waterproof, smudge-proof.
Yeah, you don't want the crucial info rubbing off. That could make you non-compliant instantly. Plus, it frustrates the customer.
Exactly. Got to stay legible. And child resistance, it's more than just ticking a regulatory box, our sources framed it as a community responsibility.
Keeping products safe, away from kids,
Right, while still being reasonably accessible for adults who need them.
and tamper-evident seals. That's about product integrity.
Builds confidence, lets the customer know nothing's been messed with. That leads to repeat sales.
So when talking to suppliers, should you just ask them straight up if they're current on the laws?
Absolutely. A good supplier should be tracking regulatory changes constantly. It's part of their job, really. They should be able to advise you.
It was definitely reassuring reading about suppliers, like that one mentioned with the LA warehouse, who make it their business to check everything meets federal and state rules before it even ships out.
Yeah, that takes a huge weight off your shoulders.
Knowing your supplier has your back on compliance lets you focus on, well, everything else.
It really does. Frees you up considerably.
Okay, compliant, branded box vision is clear. Now, the practical stuff. How many do you actually need to order? And how long is this going to take? Let's get into MOQs and turnaround times.
Right. Minimum order quantities and lead times. Big concerns for wholesale partners, and understandably so.
Nobody wants warehouses full of boxes they don't need yet.
Or worse, running out of packaging and not being able to sell product. That disrupts the whole supply chain.
So, the info we gathered suggests MOQs for custom work often start around, what, a few thousand units?
That's a typical starting point, yeah. And turnaround times. It can really vary. Could be a week, could be closer to a month. It's a pretty wide window.
What makes it vary so much?
Several things, according to our sources. How complex is your design? Special finishes, unique shapes take longer.
Makes sense.
What's the manufacturer's current workload? Are they slammed? And then there's shipping. How far does it have to travel? All these add up. That's why getting firm details up front is absolutely critical. Nail it down early.
Avoid those nasty surprises and stockouts.
Exactly. Keep things running smoothly.
It feels like a balancing act, doesn't it? Order big to maybe get a better price per unit,
Take advantage of volume discounts, yeah.
but risk getting stuck with way too much stock if things change.
That's the tightrope. Now, for standard off-the-shelf designs, suppliers might be more flexible on smaller orders, but custom stuff. That usually means higher MOQs because of the setup costs. Think printing plates, die-cut tooling, that initial investment for the manufacturer.
But the research hinted there might be wiggle room, like you could negotiate MOQs sometimes.
Potentially, yeah. Especially if you're maybe testing a new product, dipping your toe in a new market, building that relationship with your supplier helps.
Being a good partner.
Exactly. If they see you as a reliable, long-term customer, they might be more willing to work with you maybe on an initial smaller run, especially if you can use an existing template or keep the design simpler at first.
And turnaround time besides the printing, design complexity is a big one, right? Like fancy foil stamping takes longer.
Oh yeah. Anything intricate adds time. Foil, embossing, special die cuts. Plus, shipping distance is huge. And just how busy the factory is.
The sources gave some benchmarks, though, like stock items from a U.S. warehouse.
Yeah, if it's in stock domestically, maybe around a week for shipping. But full custom orders, you're likely looking at 20-25 business days for production before shipping.
And if it's coming from overseas?
Add way more time. Sea freight takes rent, plus customs clearance. You absolutely have to plan way ahead for that, especially for product launches or big expansions. Don't cut it fine.
And the logistics side, people forget about that sometimes, don't they? Sea, air, land, big cost and time differences.
Huge. And the research even mentioned things like how pallets are packed. Sounds boring, but doing it right saves money on breakage and shipping fees.
Little details matter.
They really do. Having a team that knows how to handle customs, like that supplier example, takes away so much stress and protects your margins.
Okay, so you're weighing it up. Go pre-made fast, cheaper up front. Or invest in that fully custom box that screams your brand.
That's the core debate, isn't it? Speed and cost versus a unique, perfectly branded look.
Our sources laid it out pretty clearly. Pre-made gives you speed, lower initial cost, great for maybe a brand just starting out, or one focused on simplicity.
Yeah, they're usually available right away. Standard sizes, fit most pre-rolls okay. If you're low on inventory or still figuring out your brand identity, it's a quick, less risky fix. No big upfront commitment.
But then you think about that retail shelf. A really striking custom box, that silent salesperson idea again. It really can stop people.
Totally. A unique shape and unusual colors, something innovative. It grabs attention in a way a generic box just can't.
And with custom, you control everything, right? Logo placement, Exact brand colors.
All those finishing touches, we talked about spot UV, foil, you can really dial in the look and feel to match your brand perfectly.
But, okay, let's be real. It costs more.
Generally, yes. Higher unit cost, usually higher MOQs.
And it takes longer. You've got design proofs, maybe physical samples to approve.
Those extra steps add time, definitely. You need to factor that into your planning and budget. But, as the sources suggest, if you're serious about building a memorable brand, making that premium impression,
It's often worth the investment.
yeah, the payoff in brand recognition and perceived value can be huge.
What about if the budget's really tight, though? One source mentioned a kind of hybrid approach.
Right. Using like a standard box structure, a base template, but then really customizing the printing and labeling.
So it doesn't look totally generic.
Exactly.
That
But you avoid the cost of a fully custom mold or die cut. It's a smart way to balance budget and branding.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it depends on who you're trying to reach and how much presentation matters to them.
That's a key consideration. Know your customer.
But yeah, the overall vibe I got was, if you really want to stand out long term, a pre-made box probably isn't going to cut it forever.
For a brand aiming for real growth and market share, investing in custom often becomes essential. It's part of building that strong identity.
Okay, decision made, custom it is. Now, the big question. How do you find the right people to make these amazing boxes? Let's talk finding reliable wholesale suppliers.
Yeah, finding the right partner, it can feel daunting, but it's absolutely vital for consistency and, well, your sanity.
Where do you even start? Our sources suggested looking at established B2B marketplaces.
Good starting point.
Right.
Or attending industry trade shows, packaging expos specifically.
And referrals. One source really emphasized asking peers in the cannabis industry.
Right.
That feels like solid advice.
Incredibly valuable. Word of mouth in this industry counts for a lot. Also, think about suppliers you already trust for other things, maybe vape hardware, other accessories.
Ask them if they do pre-roll boxes too.
Exactly. Many top suppliers, like that Clover Glass example again, offer multiple product lines. They might already have what you need, plus they can often help with logistics, compliance, even design tweaks.
It's really about building a partnership, isn't it? Not just a transaction.
Totally. You need someone who delivers consistent quality, yes, but also someone who can adapt with you as your needs change or the market shifts.
So trade shows like Champs, good place to meet people face to face.
Excellent place. You can actually see and touch the samples, talk details, get a feel for how they operate, their professionalism, assess their vibe.
What about just searching online? Marketplaces, directories like Leafly.
They can be useful for casting a wide net initially, but yeah, exercise some caution, vet them carefully,
Oh,
look for verified reviews if possible, prioritize recommendations from people you trust. Some B2B platforms offer more detailed specs, pricing, MOQs, which helps narrow it down.
And before signing anything, due
Ooh,
diligence time.
Absolutely crucial. Check their credentials. How long have they been around? Do they specialize in cannabis packaging specifically? And definitely ask for references.
Talk to their current clients.
Yes. A good, confident supplier will happily provide references. If they hesitate or refuse, big red flag, walk away.
That example of this supplier with the LA warehouse handling overseas logistics, it seems like a big plus.
Huge advantage for U.S. clients. Faster shipping, they handle customs. It simplifies everything.
So that's something to ask potential suppliers about if they have similar setups.
Definitely worth asking. Any infrastructure they have to smooth out the supply chain, reduce transit times, cut costs, that's a major benefit for you.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's crystal clear that pre-roll boxes are way more than just, cardboard. They're a massive part of how customers see your brand.
That's the big takeaway. You've got to pay attention to the materials, nail the compliance, be smart and strategic with branding, and crucially, find those solid, reliable suppliers to work with.
Get all those pieces right, and it seems like that attention to detail to packaging really gives you an edge.
It absolutely does. In such a busy, growing market, thoughtful presentation signals quality, professionalism, it resonates.
So here's something to chew on as we finish. How can you leverage this seemingly small detail, the packaging, as a real strategic weapon in the cannabis game? What are the next level trends in packaging innovation that could make your brand the one everyone remembers? Definitely something worth exploring further.